Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down. Oh, there are more Wednesdays coming, but we're about to have a little mini break, and that means that for one last time, get to put on the old t-shirt, get to look out that window and tell you it is very dark, and get to look at that clock and tell you it's very early on a Wednesday morning. That means there's only one thing that the C-Man wants to be talking about. So let's not waste anybody's time. And why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Marvel Studios' What If? Episode 9, the season finale. What if the Watcher broke his oath? And we got to see the Watcher pretty much break his oath at the end of last episode, where he extends the invitation, which Strange so desperately wanted him to say out loud to come and help him. And I am going to start the review there, because that'll at least give me a couple characters to talk about. And obviously, Ultron has a pretty major role to play in this episode. But to keep it specifically spoiler-free, those are the only characters I'm going to mention. I think we all know that we've been building to something all season. And like I said, just in the tradition of keeping it spoiler-free, I'm not going to actually say it out loud. And that is probably going to make this a fairly short review. But I want to get you guys pumped without giving anything away for the finale, because the finale is an absolute blast. And I applaud AC Bradley for building this show in a way that's very similar to how Feige built us to Endgame, man. You do all the heavy lifting early, and then, I mean, granted, you're talking about like 10 plus years of building, and then Infinity War and Endgame. And I think if you look at the season, the finale is very much Endgame, and the previous 8 episodes are essentially what, your Infinity War, where Endgame is a great movie because it just hits on all the fan service that it needs to hit on. It gives wonderful moments to all of its characters. It builds wonderfully, and it is the perfect exclamation point to, like I said, everything that Feige had built prior. But Infinity War is the better movie because it does all the heavy lifting to set up Endgame in particular. I know that every movie set up Endgame, but like the actual launch pad is Infinity War. And that's kind of how I feel about the first 8 episodes of What If. We do all of our building, all of our storytelling in those first 8 episodes so that while there is story to be told here, we want to live in spectacle. You know what I mean? And it's very rare that you get to see animation really commit to that type of spectacle. This felt like you were watching a big-time Marvel movie. I mean, the choreography and the action sequences. Like, when do you ever talk about choreography in animation? It's stellar here. I mean, you might not talk about it very much, but, it's absolutely stellar. And I love the fact that, we didn't have a ton of story to build or to dive into, we were able to just sit back and have a ball at what we built, which is of course Ultron, and how you handle that situation. And I love the way Bradley brought, all the elements that she needed to bring into this episode into it. There's one element of the episode that I thought needed a little bit more work. I could have used an additional 5, maybe 10 minutes in this episode to make one piece of it feel more cohesive. But outside of that, I think, like I said, all the building we did, we get to execute it here in a way that gives satisfying moments and satisfying payoffs for everything that we've built. And when you look at the animation, again, I think the animation was building to this episode all season long, and I think we get the best of the animation that we've had all season long. I mean, like I said, the action and the choreography, some of it is just mind-blowingly good, man. You just sit back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I am watching this on TV right now. And they do some really, really cool things. And like I said, it's an action-loaded episode. And yet it's spaced out, it's paced well, it gives you moments for everything that's going on in the episode. There's nobody or no thing in the episode that doesn't get some kind of payoff or some kind of moment where you go, yo, that was dope. And they do just so many cool things, in particular with the animation, around Ultron, around the Watcher, and around Strange. I think in the course of the season, the best animation episode for me was the Strange episode, because we went to some places that I wasn't sure Marvel would go to, under the Disney umbrella. We got to go to some dark places, and that allowed the animation to do some really stellar and some really fun things. And I think it should come as no surprise that pretty much all my favorite elements, animation-wise, in this episode stem from Strange and things that he's doing, things that are just going on around him. I mean, there is one stretch with Strange where I was just like, that is wild looking, and it was so good. I swear to God, Kevin Feige, if I don't get to see Strange Supreme in a movie somewhere, specifically Multiverse of Madness, I'm going to be so disappointed, man. Like, that character, especially from the visual standpoint, has been built in a way where I'm like, I need it in live action. I need it in live action so bad. And there are things that, like, we've kind of seen and hinted in and around Strange that play into this episode in ways that I was not ready for. And, like, there's some really cool stuff everywhere, but particularly around Strange's character. And when you're looking at a finale episode, I think this gives you everything you want, man. Like I said, I mean, it's the best animation I thought of the year. The action was insane and just so well put together and crafted, and all of the players that are at play in this episode, like, there are twists and turns and surprises that, like, while like I said, I think we all know what the big thing is with this episode. There were some things in there where I was like, I didn't see that coming. And it allowed the show to remain true to itself and what it's done to this point. And that was some really cool stuff to watch. And like I said, there's one element where I felt a little disconnected. But outside of that, I mean, it's a fairly flawless and unbelievably satisfying season finale. And, it does all the work that it needs to do and totally leaves the ability to come back, to it. We know I think season 2 is already, been announced. There's 9 more episodes coming for What If. It ends in a way where, you could totally come back and do, things like this again. I don't know if it would be this exact type of story or build, but definitely the door is open to go back. And I am still fascinated to see exactly how this plays into the live action stuff. While this season is over and it is wrapped and it is concluded, and there are definitely things that you could see how they could impact the live action, specifically something like Strange Supreme, if he somehow comes into play somewhere. But I'm intrigued because it didn't quite play out as I thought it was going to. Like, I got some questions. We'll just say that. I've still got some questions about things that are coming, and that's not a bad thing, right? Like, I wanted this show to potentially tee things up for the live action, and I think it definitely does. Like I said, we've opened the multiverse. We can understand how you can kind of traverse it and things of that nature. And, there are definitely things from this show that I could very well see being in play come Multiverse of Madness. But I'm just fascinated to see how the live action sees and uses what we've got from What If this season. But for the finale, was very, very, very satisfied. So let's not waste any time, man. Why don't we pull up the old C-Maniacs? There we are. Let's get a score on the board. Like I said, didn't need to do a lot of heavy lifting story-wise, but AC Bradley and her team still find ways to surprise us, keep us entertained, keep us on the edge of our seat, even though it's not doing heavy story lifting. And fortunately, from what we did do with the heavy lifting previously, this episode gets set up to give us some of the best animation and action sequences we've gotten in What If all season long. I mean, there are so many wow visual moments, and when you're talking about just everything that Bradley has built here, this was a very satisfying conclusion to that. And outside of like just one thing, we'll talk about it in the spoiler review, but outside of that one thing, fairly flawless. Unfortunately, because of that one thing. The number we've been chasing all season, the one I thought we would end up hitting this episode, we're just going to miss it because I'm going to go 4.9 out of 5. That one element, I could see ways where it could have been more cohesive, could have clicked a little bit better. And if you did that, you would have had 5 C-Maniacs. But because it did feel a little forced, just a little forced, and there was just elements to that thing that I wanted to see, I've got to take off a tenth of a point and give it the 4.9. This was, though, an unbelievably satisfying conclusion and really did give us some wonderful things that, like I said, I can't wait to see what we get when we get back into the live-action multiverse stuff. We're taking a little bit of a break from that as we go to Hawkeye next, and then obviously we have the Eternals coming up as well in November, and then when December hits, we can shift back in to the beginning of the live-action multiverse, movie stuff. And I'm so excited, but I definitely think there are things from this that we could see play into the live-action stuff. I don't know if we'll see it right away, but I think there are things coming. That'd be pretty freaking cool to see. And I think the show does do a good job in setting up some of that stuff. But it's still keeping it mystery, right? Like I can't put together exactly where we're going, but I'm excited to see everywhere we go, and I'm excited to come back for a season 2. This was a lot of fun, and even if it's not building to the type of thing that we got this season, you can come back to What If whenever, because it can be just an anthology series. It doesn't have to build to an overarching multiversal story or anything of that nature. And I hope that we get to come back. And I hope we get to come back and spend time with the characters that we met this year. Even if you can't have Chadwick Boseman come back, there are people who have been standouts that are not the normal voices. Lake Bell, for instance, has really won me over this season. And, she's just really impressed me as the season has progressed with Widow, where I think you could do the same thing with Black Panther. And I would love to go back and see T'Challa Star-Lord and Captain Carter, and where we leave, the post-apocalyptic Widow, and then Party Thor. That you've built characters here that you could definitely flesh out and build more on. So I think the future, as always, for the MCU and Marvel is super excited, and I'm pumped to see where we go. So there you go, man. Those are all my non-spoiler thoughts. This has been a very difficult review for me without giving anything away, but I know I'm behind a little bit in the spoiler game. Goal is to just get kind of everything up as soon as I can, but we'll definitely be talking spoilers this episode, and it'll be easier for me to talk and kind of lay things out, but absolutely excellent finale. I am all done. Now I know what you're thinking. Did the What If season finale pay off for you? Did it hit the beats you wanted it to hit? Did you, feel let down at all? Were you disappointed, or were you just much like me, sitting back going, yes, give me all of these things? And if you haven't seen the finale, what are you hoping for? What are you looking forward to? Did I get you psyched at all? Did I spoil it? Please, I hope I didn't spoil anything. But if I did, I guess feel free to call me out on it, but I definitely want to know what you're thinking and what you're excited for and what you're looking forward to and when you'll be watching the What If season finale. But put all that stuff, man, down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with C-Man, anytime, man. I mean, What If might be done, but there's more Star Wars things coming. There's more Marvel stuff coming. There's always something to talk about, and even if it's not an episode by episode, I mean, we got movies, we got TV, we got Spooktober going on. You want to be here for all my fun, spooky October Halloween, viewing and all the movies to talk about there. Which, yes, I am also a little bit behind on. Like I said, going to try to get everything caught up today. But you want to be here for all that stuff. You want to show a little love and support. You haven't, then come. Join C-Maniac Nation by simply jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button. Hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. Wonderful season of What If in the books. I am signing off. Peace.
Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.